Welcome to the 15th episode of the Hunger for Justice series, titled Women Peasants Feed the World, featuring the Korean Women's Peasants Association. Welcome everyone to the active Zoom, to our simulcast channels broadcasted around the world. Please feel free to populate the chat box with questions that you have that we'll be allowing the panelists to answer at the end of the session. Please submit them before the last 15 minutes of the conversation. The session is being recorded and will be uploaded for public viewing on the AGC YouTube channel. AGC, A Growing Culture, is a nonprofit organization advancing a culture of farmer autonomy and agroecological innovation. We thank you very much for joining us today. We cannot be more excited to be having the Korean Women's Peasant Association. What's really important for everyone to understand, today is a first. This is a first in the journey for Hunger for Justice. It's the first time we are broadcasting in multiple languages. And this is a big step because our food system is not happening in a silo. Our food system is not only domestic. We exist in an international food system called the peasant food web. The industrial food system gets all the credit for feeding the world, yet smallholder, indigenous, and peasant farmers around the world, on less than 1/5 of the world's cultivated land, 19% of cultivated land, produce over 70% of the world's food consumed. When we talk about our food system, we need to be inclusive of the ones all around the world. Just last week, we featured the peasant movement of the Philippines. They were able to broadcast at midnight, their time. Today, we are working harder to accommodate to the Korean time zone so you all can understand how this is a different time for our broadcast than we usually have. We thank you for attending this. As we move forward with this series, we are going to be working with different cultures around the world, different movements around the world, different languages around the world, so everybody can tune in and be part of a global conversation to reshape our food system. We are so happy today to be partnering with Agroecology Fund, an amazing organization dedicated to supporting these groups on the front lines. Please visit Agroecology Fund online, learn more about the work they're doing, because without their work, groups around the world wouldn't have the support to be pushing for real systemic change in our food system. So now, without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Ms. Kim Ok-im, Ms. Kim Jung-yo, and of the Korean Women's Peasant Association, and this conversation will be moderated by Ms. Yoon Gum-soon. Thank you, everyone.
Hello, everybody. I am peasant in Korea, and I'm living in Seongju, in South Korea, and I'm cultivating chame, which is yellow melon, in a traditional way, and I'm providing it to the co-op and the school and the daycare centers. I had been the president of KWPA from 2003 to 2006. And I also represented the National Women's Solidarity Group for years. And I've been working as La Via Campesina regional representative from 2004 to 2017 as an International Coordination Committee member. Currently, I am a policy director in the regional level of KWPA. And I'm also started my role as a director of Peasant Study Institute made by peasant organizations in Korea. In Korea, in the 80s, neoliberal system started under the military regime, and then they started to import lots of food from abroad. At the end of 80s, they opened up the market, and especially in the 1995 with the joining of WTO, the government opened the market widely. And there's no real protection net for peasants, such as government purchasing or fuel price system for crops. So the market got occupied with imported food, and that led to the bankruptcy and suicidal peasants. And with the import of the beef from abroad, that led to the drop of the beef price, and then many peasants suicided. People told that the globalization and neoliberalization is something that we cannot resist to. Korea is like island, not only geographically but also ideologically. We were trapped in the under the border in the southern part of the peninsula. But in 2003 in Cancun, while we were fighting against the neoliberal globalization, we met other peasants fighting against the neoliberal globalization. We were forced to leave the rural area or live like a slave under the neoliberal system. But as we met La Via Campesina, it was a great hope that there are people who are fighting against this system together. La Via Campesina has alternatives called food sovereignty, and then there's very democratic strategy in La Via Campesina. So peasants in Korea learned from La Via Campesina. We made it into our activity, and we also shared our own experiences with La Via Campesina. We learned and shared the courage. We thought about what is food sovereignty, what is agroecology, why is important, and how we can protect our seeds. We learned it from the peasants around the world. We also shared why it's really important to organize women in the rural area. We shared the courage and hope. At the moment, agriculture in Korea is withered, and then peasants are still living in the rural area. But we are still fighting to build sustainability in the rural area and agriculture. We are fighting while farming. It's gonna be hard for peasants nor the earth to survive if we cannot change this neoliberal system. Due to COVID-19, people learned about the truth that we are not aware of. And then it is changing our routine that we failed to change for many years. So for the future of the humanity, we gotta take the signal from the nature and then learn, build a wise strategy. It's really important, our effort at the moment. KWPA's example, who built the alternative struggle from the 1980s, I think it's very important, and it can give many insight to other people fighting with the movement. So I'd like to hear from the leaders of the KWPA. What are their struggle and what their movements are about. So first, I'd like to invite Ms. Oh Yim. Ms. Kim Oh-kim, the president of KWPA. I would like to listen from her the struggle of KWPA.
Nice to meet you all. I'm the president of KWPA, Kim Oh-kim. I live in the southern island of Korea, which is called the Jeju Island, where I'm farming. And this is my honor. It is my honor to be taking the job of the president of KWPA. And I'll briefly explain the 30 years of history of KWPA. Around 1980s, because of the opening the domestic market to the agricultural imports, it made the price of cow drop rapidly, and peasants with the cows, they gathered together in order to struggle against the price drop of the cow, and that they want the rights to survive, rights to compensation for this price drop. This never happened before, and this time peasants got together and realized, women peasants have realized that we have to organize ourselves to fight against something happening in the structurally happening. And this was the time that we realized we have to organize ourselves. And it was the 1989, December 18th, women peasants, in order to realize what we have seen through the struggle against the price drop of the cow and other impacts of the free trade regime. And we decided to organize ourselves and build this KWPA, found the KWPA. This was our slogan that we women peasants should be master of our own production and master of our own life. And we are the one who act the active subject ourselves. And that was our slogan. And especially on the one hand, we have a struggle, and in the other hand, we have a solution or alternative. And this was our also central points in our activity. And to 2019, we have 30 years anniversary. So we, KWPA, has many attempts to make the policy that helps women peasants. It was mostly the education and organization, and also about the food sovereignty project that KWPA is self-organized. We ask government to support those. So now I have a question to President Kim Oh-kim. So it sounds like you struggled a lot, and are there like a struggle that you remember the most, the impressive struggle? Can you introduce some of them? So there are a few things I can think of. The first thing would be the 2003. It was shaving. We have to shave our hair to show our struggle. It was an unimaginable, the woman shaving their hair. And it's me, myself, and the one who's moderating right now, she herself, we have to, we shaved our hair in order to struggle against the FTA, Korea-Chile FTA. So that was a moment that I remember. It was the situation that we have to show our desperate situation by shaving our hair. We cried a lot at this moment, right in front of the government buildings. And also I remember that 2005, it was a struggle demonstration against the WTO in Hong Kong. There were about like 1,000 people to Hong Kong from South Korea, and among them also KWPA members were there included, and about 100 members of KWPA joined this demonstration, and all of this about 1,000 people were imprisoned. Also, KWPA members were imprisoned, and there was a moment that we also have a struggle against the WTO regime. And also 2009, there was a price drop of rice, which made the lives of peasants very harsh. So KWPA members, we women peasants, wrote letters by our blood, and we showed our struggle by saying that we cannot live anymore. We have to turn this over. Turn this over means to what we have produced, we have to turn it over, and we're not going to sell anything. We cannot live like this. That was the messages that we are giving out to people with our blood. We wrote it down with the blood. So we try to kind of cut the fingers to have the blood to come out, but it was difficult. But I remember those moments.
So thank you for sharing the struggle of KWPA. I heard that KWPA is made up of only women, and I wonder why they we organized the organization exclusive of women. I still hear this question because I think in the global level there aren't many organizations made up of only women as a peasant organization. The question that we were raising is that does the price drop will make the life of the peasant difficult, but limited to the male peasant? No, it applies to all of us. It applies to women peasant too. And we, as a woman peasant, gotta solve this issue ourselves. And we wanted to at the front of the fight. We wanted to be proud of our own fight. So we were at the front of the fight, and then we were getting self-esteem about it. But in Korean saying, there is a saying that it goes ill with the house when the hen sings and the cock is silent. And there's a culture in Korea as if the woman cannot be active in the movement. And also, the women peasants still gotta take care of their children and gotta deal with the household labors when we were fighting. Although it was difficult, we thought it's important that we build our own organization with our own capacity. And then we gotta raise the problem based on the real life and real problem of the woman peasants we face in the daily life. So when we were attending a meeting, we were carrying our little children on our back. Like, although the children were crying, we were like doing meeting and like having serious discussion. Can you imagine that picture? That's the way that we built our own organization. And of course, we are like strongly allied with the male peasant organization, KPL, Korean Peasant League. I heard that KWPA does the activity not limited to the peasant movement itself, not only limited to the agrarian issue, but also like social change. Could you give me an example? Yeah, well, there are many. We are always in solidarity with the workers and the urban poors and the farmers. We do several different activities with other actors. But there's a real issue in Korea that we are a divided country. It's 75 years since the South and North Korea was divided. So one of our important projects in KWPA is our activity to achieve the peaceful reunification. So we established the Reunification Fund, and we also grew the and sent to the kids in the North Korea. And we also made the garden, small garden, orchard, hoping the peaceful reunification. In 2000, there's the joint declaration of South and North Korea. And in 2001, peasants in South and North Korea met together. We sang, we danced together. It was really an unforgettable moment. It was so beautiful. But with the change of the regime, the change of the government, it became hard to meet the peasant in the North Korea again. Although the time is difficult, we are still continuing this movement for the reunification. And we are always hoping that we can walk to the Baekdu Mountain in North Korea someday. We are continuing the struggle.
So from now, could you say what the KWPA wants to achieve? I have something to show you guys. Can you see this book? This has a yellow cover. It says 30-year-old KWPA is the power of the world, the center of the change. That's the main title of this book. This is to show our history, 30 years of history of KWPA. It shows the blood and the sweat that woman peasants had. And it shows that it has the declaration of KWPA commemorating the 30 years anniversary. So the way we have lived, we are gonna say for the future that we're also gonna continue to live like ourselves, which is we are the master of our own life, own world, and we should be ourselves organized. And I think we have the power to change the world, and that KWPA will be the center of this change. And thank you. So KWPA not only struggle and also fought to find the alternative, and we had this concept of food sovereignty, and we have called food sovereignty movement. And here I'm going to introduce you the current ICC of Southeast and East Asia region, Via Campesina. We'll listen to her about the KWPA's the food sovereignty movement. So she will briefly introduce you what KWPA has done for the food sovereignty, and then I'll ask some questions.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jeongyul Kim. I'm working for La Via Campesina at the moment. I'm also living in a rural area in Sangju. It's a small rural area. I have a small, 4-hectare paddy field and 1 hectare of vegetable farm, growing many of Korean vegetables like chili in an organic way. I'm so happy to introduce the experience of KWPA here, especially I'm going to talk about the food sovereignty movement, KWPA. As time is limited, I don't know how much I can share, but I'll try my best. The food sovereignty movement of KWPA got attention globally. In 2012, we got prize hosted by Why Hunger. We got this food sovereignty prize in 2012. This is a picture, and the president back then, she got this prize in New York. In 2013, the experience of KWPA got introduced in the radical paper called Monthly Review, and there was an article about KWPA's activities. Why it's important, this food sovereignty movement of peasant women in Korea, how it can promote the rights of the peasant women. Many people were asking the question, and that's why the KWPA got attention. In 2017, in the 7th conference of La Via Campesina in Basque Country, the KWPA's campaign of one peasant conserving one seed, this became the action plan of La Via Campesina. Via Campesina understood that it's important that we all save our seed together. The food sovereignty movement of KWPA was started in 2005, the seed saving movement of KWPA. With the seed sovereignty movement, KWPA wanted to fight against the neoliberalism, and we wanted to build a new agriculture system which can guarantee the rights of the peasant, and we wanted to build a food system that does not for the profit but the rights of the people. Ms. Yoon and Ms. Kim talked about the background of the Korean agriculture and why we had to fight the food sovereignty movement. We started fight against the neoliberal agriculture system from the 1980s. As I was threatening the survival of the peasant, I was demolishing the rural community. We had to fight. We fought against the Uruguay round. We had to fight against WTO. And national scale, we were fighting against the price drop of the crops. And we had to fought against the increase of rice import. So although we were fighting really fiercely, it was still hard to change the trend of the government policy. So although we were fighting, we were coming up with the alternative. And we were thinking about what is the agriculture system, food system for all. We were thinking about what is the new food sovereignty movement. As Yoon said before, when KWPA joined the La Via Campesina in 2004, KWPA introduced the food sovereignty movement in the organization. So the food sovereignty movement of KWPA, I think there are some characteristics, unique characteristics. The first one is that although we're struggling really fiercely, we reflect on our movement and try to find the alternative. Second is that peasant women are the master of this movement, at the front of the movement. We wanted to do a movement that it's making a change on its own field, our own field. Thirdly, we are based in the community. Our movement is based on the rural community. And fourth and lastly, the food sovereignty movement of KWPA is not limited to peasant, but also with consumer and people in the city. We are fighting together. Because the peasants are only 5% of the Korean population, it's really hard to make the change. So, and the issue of the food sovereignty should reflect the rights of all the people. That's why we care so much about the movement that we do with consumer. So more concretely, I think there are 4 fields of our food sovereignty movement. First one is the peasant seed saving movement. Peasants in Korea are saying that although we starve and to die, we will sleep on our seed. That means that even if we are so poor and there's nothing to eat, we are not sacrificing our food. We try to protect our seed, and the seed is more important than our own life. So the seed were protected and handed in by generation by generation. Our grandparents were kept for many centuries, but currently we're seeing that the corporates are occupy the seed market, and many peasants, many farmers peasants are using the corporate seed, and we are using their input. So we as a movement thought that it's really important that we protect our own seed. So as I said before, we were doing this movement of that one peasant protect one seed at least. And then for these members who were protecting the seed, we shared this tag that you are a keeper of the seed. You can see it here in this picture. And then there's we are also doing a fund of getting like $10, and we got provided with the seed, and we raised our seed with the money that people donated, and we gave it back to the consumer, the fruit in the end.
So the second point would be the agroecology practices. So Bia Campesina also emphasizes without agroecology, food sovereignty would not work. So we need this practice of agroecology, and transition to the agroecology is very important. We also believe in that too. So without changing to our practices into agroecology, we cannot change the world. That's what we believed. Why we also had many activities regarding to the agroecology. And the third point is that our projects called the Sisters Garden. Actually, the name of this Sisters Garden is very long. It says the message of this Sisters Garden is that we have the faith. So with the faith, we show that who is the producer of food that you're eating, and we are giving it to these healthy food to for the health of the consumers. We are also protecting the native seeds. We give this message to the people who received our packages. And we have gathered together by the community wise, and we worked to make the package to send once a week to the consumers in the urban area. And we have about 13 community organized for this sisters garden, and they're sending to the thousands of consumers. They're sending packages to the thousands of consumers in the urban area at the moment. My community is also organizing these packages, food packages for the consumer. And here, every Wednesday, women peasants gather together, and we are sending our products to the consumer. So this Sisters Garden project is also receiving lots of attentions. And by doing these activities, it changes the lives of women peasants. It changes the system. It shows that we can do this by our hand. And also last year, Professor Yan Dao has visited us, and then he also have observation on us, and we are getting lots of attention right now. And this actually shows that we are not just the takers of the policy, but we ourselves has also our own project and our own effort. And also we are raising our voice also on the policy, government policy on the agriculture, especially it should be changed to the way that supports the agroecology. So food sovereignty movement that we are doing, so we are raising our voice. Currently, Korean government is not having that much of a.
Thank you for sharing. Talk more specifically about this movement of keeping the peasant seed? Yeah, sure. The basic of our movement is that it's important that we save the peasant seed, which is disappearing every day. So we determined that one person at least, should protect one seed. We have done this movement more than 10 years. We are making the database on seed. Based on this database, we are building more information about the peasant seed. And secondly, we are sending the food made out of the native seed to the consumers. And then we make a joint seed farm with the consumers in the rural community. Since you are doing the vegetable package project yourself, can you tell more about what change has been made specifically to the peasant woman's life? Yeah, it has been like 11 years since our community was engaged in the vegetable box project. There are 16 peasant women members, and then the age is very diverse, and it includes the women in 80s. With this long-lasting activity, one of the most important thing that I believe is that the women is the front of our own production. We are the master of our own production, our own food grown. Although peasant women are doing a big role in the farming, like taking more than 52% of the farm labor, we were subordinated legally for many years. But with this kind of activity, like Sisters Garden, we are learning that we are at the center of this production. So that was really meaningful from the perspective of the woman peasant rights movement. So it was a very important activity that we were doing. And with the Sisters Garden activity, women peasants became more active. They were deciding themselves what kind of seed will plant, what production method, farming method we'll like to do, what kind of market are we gonna use. We became more active on the we became more autonomous on our own decision, and that was possible with the collaboration of the collaboration among the peasant women in the community. Through this activity, economically as well, women became more active and could voice up better in the family and in the society. So with these activities, peasant women more engaged in the politics. We got more political power, and I think that's really big achievement.
So under the name of Sisters Garden, we have this food package sending system project. And also you are also practicing agroecology. So at your farm, so what kind of agroecology practices you're doing currently? Can you share those? Yes, I can share about three examples that I'm doing in my farm. So the first would be very useful practice, which is the native microorganism. I developed a natural native microorganism culture. So there are many native microorganisms are disappearing because of the chemical that is used in the agriculture. And in order to make the soil more fertile and to be alive, we need these microorganisms to be living. So I developed this microorganism culture, and it's not that difficult. I can I can I can bring soil from the mountain in the vicinity of my farm, and I use them to I grind them, and then I make it to for my farmland, which makes the this microorganism from this mountain area come to my farmland. This is not that difficult, and it was very easy. And so, in order to make our own farm for fertile, it was a good way to just do agricultural practice. And also, the second thing is the method of planting, which is first make the soil more fertile and make the balance of the nature more in a harmonious way. I'm using barley a lot. And this picture shows that using the barley, and we are also planting, I plant the ginger with the barley. Recently, Korea, they're using lots of plastics when they're farming. And using the plastics are useful in agriculture, but I try not to use the plastics. And I try to plant like this, plant the ginger first, and then sow barley seed around August or May. And around June, the end of June, the barley grows up, and then the ginger then starts to growing around June. So as you can see in the left side, you plant the ginger first, and then sow the barley grow up first, so you can see the only barley. But so leftmost picture shows the barley, and then once the barley grows up in the middle, and then the last picture shows that the ginger growing, and this method is also useful. by planting barley with the ginger, it prevents the other weeds to grow and also prevents the insects to come. Also, it also prevents other influence from the flood. Also, it gives the barley become the manure for the gingers to grow. And also the third point would be diverse cropping. And I'm aware that many people already know about diverse cropping, so I'll skip this example. So there will be various kinds of diverse cropping, and I'm trying this and that. And we think this would be a good time for us to stop and getting answers from you, getting questions from you.
Since the FTA and the increase of imported foods, have the women peasants noticed any impacts on health and nutrition?
예, 제가 답변.
Yeah, I'd like to answer to this question. The free trade and the imported food, due to the FTA imported food, the food sufficiency rate is 21%. And the majority of the important food are cheap. But it's not a stable food, nor it's nutritious. So in Korea, there were several big struggles, demonstration against this imported food. In 2004, there's a fight against the imported food of imported rice, because the rice is the staple food in Korea. The protest was fierce. And in 2008, there's a protest against the imported American food, beef. People were watching and got threatened that it will ruin our health. Families got threatened with their health. Peasant women, due to the imported food, the food that we grew, its price got plunged. It was hard to manage our farm, and we could not survive, and the only way to survive is farming in a bigger scale. So the peasant woman, we had to work even more. We got exposed to even harder labor, and that also threatened our health and livelihood. Many peasant women also left the rural area due to the imported food.
Can you give examples of how your women's peasant group can be more effective than your counterpart men's group?
예. 어느 나라도 마찬가지겠지만,
So it could be similar situation in other countries too. Women are sensitive, and when women are having plan, they are having a step by step and heading towards the goal, and it has a sense of community. So even women can be seen as a small person, but they gather together, discuss to each other with the community sense, and sharing the roles, having the roles for each one, and we are contemplating on what to do, the strategies, step by step. And so in the beginning, our activities might not be seen as a huge impact, but these activities are continue accumulating. It shows up. Like the example that Miss Kim Jong-yeol has shown to you, the Sisters Garden, it's really not an easy job. They gather together and grow together and packages together, and they send it to the consumer. This system has settled down. It needed 10 years to settle down. And I think if it were not woman peasant, can anyone else do this? I doubt this.
I'd like to add here. The food sovereignty movement, in the food sovereignty movement, there's a lot of achievement for peasant women. Citizens supported the food sovereignty movement of peasant women because they knew how desperate we were. We are those who are exposed to the long hours of farming, and no one really recognizes our work. And then we are fighting fiercely for the rights and the recognition of us as a peasant woman. And then citizens really understood our struggle. And then we peasants communicate with the consumers. And then we were thinking, and we knew what kind of food the consumer needs exactly. So for the food sovereignty movement, peasant women achieved a lot of things.
Are you able to get any news about how the peasant farm workers of North Korea are faring during the COVID-19 pandemic?
북한에 대해서는 저희가 많은 정보가 통제되어 있어서
So information on the North Korean peasants are very limited, and so I can only speak for the only some official information that North Korea has sent to other countries. So North Korea says that there are not many COVID-19 positives in North Korea, that much. And there was a case that one person came down to the south side and then went back to North Korea. And in the South Korea, we have a news that this person somehow escaped to North Korea and then went back to North Korea. And then when he did this, he visited the area where COVID-19 was impacted. So we are suspecting this also might have an impact on the North Korea. But so we are still very much limited on the information related to the North Korea. And also the law prevents us to know more about the North Korea in South Korea, especially in the name of the having the national security issue. The law is protecting us to know more about the North Korea, and we are protesting against to lower this bar to know the North Korea.
What has been the main reason for the loss of farming communities in rural Korea?
네, 농산물 수입 개방이었습니다. 그래서
Of course, it's the market opening, food market opening.
개방이 한국 농민한테 농산물 가격을 떨어뜨리고
The imported food drops the food grown in Korea.
많은 장려를 했고 빚을 내주고 농업 구조 조정을 했습니다.
The government promoted the farming agriculture restructuring and promoted peasants to scale up their farming. And the peasant was suffering from the debt, and then people got bankrupt. The rural area is getting vacant, and it's really hard to see young people in the rural area anymore. There are just old people left. So this main reason of the loss of farming community in Korea is that neoliberal policy trend in Korea. And I'd like to add, the Korean government is abandoning agriculture in Korea. The government changed into the policy which sacrifice agriculture field for the promotion of industry, and then they were approaching, the government was approaching the issue of agriculture just as an economic interest. The biggest sacrifice here was the peasant woman, as the farming could survive by scaling up. The extra labor was placed on the woman peasant excessively. And as it became impossible to survive out of farming itself, the woman gotta find the second or third job in the industry. So there's this problem engaged, and women peasants hope that we continue living in the rural area with farming our land.
Does the media give you coverage that enhances your message?
언론에서 전현홍을 다루냐고. 네, 그렇죠. 네. 어떻게 다루는지에 대한.
Yes, the media give coverage to the KWPA's messages.
메이저 언론들에서는
Usually the major mass media major news don't cover us, but those media that is run by the civil movement organization, they give lots of coverage of us, but not the major news agencies. But there's one case that major news agency have attention to us. What's it? They have attention to they've covered our Sisters Garden project. The Sisters Garden project was actually broadcasted to the main TV channel in South Korea. It was about the 90 minutes of documentary, which was recording of 3 days of Sisters Garden activities of KWPA. That was at the moment the search keyword for KWPA was top at that exact moment. That was a moment that one major media took our example, but not there was few occasions the major media took our issue, but not many.
How can communities around the world support your efforts?
일단은 사실은 저희들이 언어의 제약으로
We are quite limited with the issue of languages. We only speak Korean, so it's really difficult for us to do international activities. But there are some articles written in English about our movement, and please look over those articles in monthly review, and please share and read about it.
And also this September, we were trying to invite via Campesina friends and other allies, other people who support us, to invite our forums or the symposium on this September, but because of the COVID-19, we have to postpone the symposium on our seed conserving issue and our food sovereignty movement. So we were trying to have this chance, but because of COVID-19, we couldn't. But we will still try to find a way we can communicate with the other communities in the world.
그리고 우리 그거 있는데. 전년학 30분 영화 스피너. 그리고 저희들 그 전년홍 30년 운동의
Before
역사.
answering the question, I'd like to add one more. There's the video of KWPA's activities for 30 years, and we're making subtitle into English and Spanish. And once it's completed, we'll upload it in YouTube. Please take a look. And I think it's done by the middle of August.
And it would be good for you to share those information, a video that telling our stories to other people and distributing. That would be helpful for us.
How has working and being part of global networks like LVC been helpful?
일단 많은 정보를
We got lots of information to begin with,
같은 처지의 사람들,
and among others,
같이 투쟁하는 같은 처지의 사람들이 있다라는 것이
it's really
굉장히 큰
meaningful and then helpful that there are people fighting with us with the same goal,
세계 여러
and the same
나라의
enemy.
조직들이 먼저 해왔던 어떤 경험들 그런
And we learned from other organizations who experienced for us the same issue. We heard and we learned from them. And we also shared our own experiences with others too. And that was really helpful. And with exchange with the other peasant organizations in the world, we interacted face to face. We worked together. Itself, that activity itself was the strength of the movement. Agriculture is suffering from the neoliberal market opening. And peasant women ourselves, although we had to fight, it's really tough. The struggle was so tough. But looking at other peasant women in the world fighting too, that was a great power for us to continue to fighting. I attended the midterm conference in Zimbabwe, and I met other peasant women fighting, and that gave a lot of momentum for me to keep struggling. And I saw that how our food sovereignty movement, our activities was shared by other organizations, and that was really meaningful for us.
What is the greatest barrier you have had with distribution and growth of the food packages and home deliveries in the urban areas?
무슨 과정?
전체 과정.
예통.
저희 제가 살고 있는 공동체 같은 경우에는 일주일에
In my case, my community, so we have 180 packages to send to urban families, and it's not a small amount for one community to do so. But fortunately, Korea has a good distribution. The package sending system, postal system is very well established. So when we send these packages from Tuesday, it will arrive around Wednesday. So there are difficulties. So we are not directly directly meeting the urban consumers, but we have to send those food to the packages. It make even though it takes 1 day or 2 days, some food stuff may get its quality may get worse. So those could be some problems, but still it's quick enough that consumers are quite satisfied. And but still, we're trying to also thinking about the reducing how the reducing the energy that is used to send packages. So we're trying to make the distance from the one community to the urban area to as short as possible, and we're making advances. We're making discussions on how to reduce energy and make it more the pro-environmental projects.
What does food sovereignty look like for you in your communities?
뭐라 그래? 안 들려. 여러분의 공동체 속에서 이해하는. 저희들이 어쨌든 그 식량 주권이라는 것은 첫
For us,
번째로
the food sovereignty means, firstly,
보장되는 식량 주권이어야 된다라고 생각을 합니다.
should guarantee the rights of peasant.
보장되는 식량 주권 속에서
With this food sovereignty that guarantees the peasant rights,
이런 어떤 건강하고
we should choose the farming method ourselves to produce a healthy food that people can feed on. And that starts from the farming resource, which is the seed, and it is also about the production method, and it also includes the distribution and issue of the consumer's health. And peasant women who are producer of the food, their rights should be guaranteed as well. That's what we are working on to achieve food sovereignty. It's an alternative to change the system. That's the food sovereignty movement, KWPA.
I want to thank everyone for tuning in. This has been incredible. What's really important to understand is the role that women play in food systems around the world. In a lot of the global South, women produce up to 80 to 90% of domestic food consumed. This role that women play is often overlooked. Policy does not support women farmers, and communities and cultures sometimes create roadblocks and barriers for women to have access to land, as well as loans. And what happens is we create a food system that is essentially extremely patriarchal. And this might be a bold idea. It might be a real bold idea to think that mitigating climate change has a lot more to do about gender equality than Silicon Valley innovations. It's up to all of us to ask questions, to look deep at these answers, and to explore our food system and celebrate the very ones that grow our food. Today, the Korean Women Peasants Association took time to share with us so that we can learn the struggles that they're engaged with on the ground. I hope that everyone here follows and supports today's speakers. They can go to kwpa.org or www.sistersgarden.org. You can follow them on Facebook, and you can email if you have any questions for support. Next week, we will be featuring another woman farmer, Elizabeth Mpofu of La Via Campesina. Elizabeth Mpofu is the general coordinator of the global network of La Via Campesina, and I hope that everybody can come together to listen and learn and engage. Now, I am so grateful for KWPA to take the time to share with us today. I'm so grateful for our partnership with Agroecology Fund, for their hard work supporting the grassroots groups on the ground. If you've enjoyed this broadcast, please consider supporting it and following A Growing Culture for weekly updates. I want to take one moment before we end to ask KWPA to share any closing thoughts with the global community.
예. 오늘
So
너무너무
today, this was a moment that we share our story to other regions of the world. This is a very pleasing moment. And from now on also, at the ground, at the grassroots level, we'll move forward with all the women peasants in Korea. And thank you for the attention and support to KWPA, and from also in the future, please continue to have those attention to us. Thank you. And we are in the crisis of agriculture, crisis of peasants, crisis of crisis of ecology, crisis of climate. Capital cannot solve these problems. We need solidarity. We need alliance. We need support of the people who wants a better world. And so we have to deepen the solidarity, strengthen the solidarity with the other people in the world who want to change the world. So I hope we can bring the better world for us, and KWPA will continue to fight for Korean women peasants and also for the people in the world and the rights of peasants. And thank you. I'll be the last one who speaks. And thank you for a growing culture to make this opportunity for us to speak. And it is very important to make the Korean society also more gender even. Gender equality should be achieved in everywhere too. And we also want to fight in Korea. So for the women to speak more freely and voluntarily, so I have seen women could not speak freely in also other parts of the world, and I think a woman also has to fight, struggle together to achieve the gender equality. Also, there are the current political situation of Korea, the division of South and North, and there are like fight that we need to bring the peaceful reunification also. And I think this is also a good time to finish. And thank you for listening to us.
Thank you. I want to also thank our translators. This is not an easy job. AGC is deeply committed to working with groups all over the world on the front lines of our food system. We're deeply committed to supporting the groups that don't always get the megaphone. And this platform, the Hunger for Justice, is on a journey to help support the messages from the grassroots all over the world. We are committed to bettering ourselves in that journey and helping improve the technology and our capacities to actually be able to broadcast these messages. So thank you to our wonderful translators who were able to really hold through and support us during this time. Everybody, please tune in next week. Follow us on social media. And I want to thank our sponsors, Milgram and Dascom, as well as Eat Your Way Clean. I really appreciate everyone's taking the time in on Friday or Saturday, depending where you are in the world, to join us. And we look forward to this journey continuing. Solidarity. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.